had never dealt with anything before that and haven't dealt with anything like that since, but it was really kind of a eye-opening moment. It wasn't anything like malevolent. It was just something that was there. And
Hey everyone, it's Rob, and I'm so excited to let you know that Oops All Ghosts is officially back. That's right, after a little break, we're firing things up and brand new episodes that I think everyone is going to enjoy. For everyone who's joining us, Oops All Ghosts is my podcast where we dive headfirst into the strange and the spooky. We share stories about haunted houses, ghost encounters, and bizarre happenings. And sometimes, even the downright funny side of the paranormal. It's a mix of eerie, mysterious, and light-hearted storytelling that we think campfire tales for the digital age. I've got some really great episodes lined up, from chilling ghost stories and haunted places to strange personal experiences that listeners like you have shared with us. Every episode, we try to bring a balance of fun, mystery, and the goosebumps. And here's the part where we need you. If you've got a ghost encounter or a weird experience you can't explain, or just a story that belongs on the show, send it over to oopsallghosts@gmail.com. We love hearing from our community, and some of the best episodes we've made have been built around your stories. If you're excited for what's ahead, make sure to leave that like button, hit that follow button, and share the show with your friends. The more haunted stories we gather, the more fun this is for all of us. So stick around. Oots All Ghosts is back, and the hauntings are just getting started.
yeah, no worries. So it was about 3 years ago, about almost 4 years ago now. So we were, my fiance at the time then, and our two kids were in the home, and we'd been in there probably about 3 or 4 months, and maybe a little longer, but we hadn't had any problems. Just run-of-the-mill house, no issues at all. um so then, kind of out of nowhere, we got a call from Mississippi, where her family resides, that said that her cousin had been killed. So we were kind of all caught off guard by that. So we went down for the funeral. We came back, and I'd say probably maybe a few weeks later, some stuff started to happen around our house. So it was started off small, like some lights would be flickering on and off in the garage, and we didn't think anything of the garage. We just thought, the light in the garage is old. Then we'd have some lights flicker on and off in the kitchen, which we thought was odd, but it was very sporadic, so we never really thought too much of it. Um, so then, after a while, we also started to experience like these footsteps sounds. So we have the small kids at the time. We had one that was a toddler, and the other one was like 7 or 6. So they were both young. So kids sneak out of bed sometimes and run around. So we started hearing these footsteps. So we'd be in the kitchen or just around the corner, and we'd hear footsteps running like they were going to come around the corner. And then we'd look, because nothing would ever come around the corner. So we'd go and look around, and no one would be there. And then we'd go to their rooms and check on them, and they'd both be asleep in bed. So we're like, huh, that's weird. So that was that was kind of unsettling for us. And we were like, what's going on? So then, after, I'd say, probably another week or two of that, where we both kind of experienced this separately. I mean, at this point, we were both experiencing these things, but we didn't tell each other them, because we were both kind of like weirded out by it. And we are like, I don't want to scare the other one. But we were both experiencing them. So then the next thing was, my wife and I, we both started to have these really weird dreams and feel like we were being watched. So my dreams were less clear. I don't remember them as well as she does, but I always just kind of had this weird sinking feeling, like somebody was watching me while I was laying down or while I was sleeping, or there'd be somebody standing at the foot of my bed. Or at the foot of our bed. So that was kind of weird for me. And my wife would always get this. We had a smaller hallway that was connecting for the kids' rooms to our room. And in her dreams, she would see this woman walking down the hallway, and the kids would be like following her. So we were kind of like, what? So that's freaky. And then she like would run up, and like whatever the lady was that the kids were following would like get up in her face. And I don't know if you have ever heard of or seen, there's a game that they never released. It was called PT, and it was supposed to be like a Silent Hill game they were going to come out with years ago, and they released a playable teaser for it, PT. And the way she described it, it sounded a lot like that. So it really freaked us out. I was like, what?
Oh
So it was
wow.
really freaky. Yeah, it was really like a freaky thing. So it was like scarier. So we were both kind of unsettled. So one night we're in the kitchen and we're making something. It's late at night, and we're talking to each other. And I was like, I just brought it up. I was like, hey, so I've been kind of weirded out by some of the stuff going on. She was like, no way, you too? So then we start running back like what we were both kind of dealing with at the same time. And I'm just thinking like there's no way that there's ghosts. I don't believe in ghosts. This is ridiculous. So, just kind of joking, I'm like, hey, if there's anybody here, make a noise. And then right above our heads in like the crawl space above our like at in our attic area, we hear two thumps. We hear bump, bump come right above our heads. So then we just look at each other, and I've got like goosebumps at that point, and like my hair standing on end, and I'm like, this is not real. So we both kind of like laugh it off because we're like, well, there's nothing we can do. I was like, well, hope it's a friendly ghost kind of a thing. And then we just kind of let it go, and we were just like, anytime something weird would happen around the house, we'd say, hey, chill out, Casper, or something goofy. um, but yeah, we didn't really know what was going on, but we just kind of knew that there was something happening. So we just had that experience, and I mean, maybe that went on for probably a few months, and then when we ended up moving, I think close to the time we left, nothing was happening in the house anymore. But I mean, we moved to our new home and nothing, we haven't had any other activity since then. But it was just really odd to me that we had that happen. And it was like 3 months of solid stuff going on and then nothing after that. And then we moved and haven't had anything happen since. And it's been about 4 years.
So 3 months of having these activities like light flicker and sound going on, and it was.
Yeah. So
I'm like when you communicated to it, like, hey, like quit scaring us. That's when things slow down.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we didn't even really say, "Hey, quit scaring us." We just said we were just like acknowledging that there was a presence there. We just acknowledged it and kind of made like jokes, and anything something happened, I was like, "Oh, I guess the ghost is, feeling a little busy today or something." Just little jokes like that, but just acknowledge that there was a presence there. I don't think it was a negative one. We even had experiences with the little one at the time. He was about 6 months old. He would wake up crying pretty regularly in the mornings. But there was some time in that like weird period where he would wake up and he would be laughing. And we're like, what is he laughing about? But it sounded like he was in his room just like playing with something. So, he'd be laughing. And like I said, usually he'd wake up crying, but he was like, wake up like laughing, like he was playing with somebody, like somebody was making him laugh. So we were like, oh, that's kind of, that's not as scary, I guess. So, but I mean, it was just little things like that that really kind of shifted my perspective on this because had never dealt with anything before that and haven't dealt with anything like that since. But it was really kind of a eye-opening moment.
Yeah, like when everything escalates like that, I can imagine like it starts with small like questions and feelings, and then it turns into like a full perspective. Like this isn't right.
Yeah, I mean, my big concern was just making sure that it wasn't anything that was like negative, and I don't think it was anything negative. My wife had some weird dreams, but even in the dream, she didn't get hurt or anything. It was just a little unsettling, is how I'll describe it. I mean, it's like if something's going on that you've never experienced before, you're out of your element, you don't really know, you got like that natural fear that comes with that. But I mean, just because you're afraid of something doesn't mean that it's, out to hurt you. I mean, I hear a lot of best stories that people talk about, something maybe like demonic or something that's like throwing things around their house or, something like that. It's like we didn't experience anything like that. Whereas ours just kind of felt like the best way to describe it is like a Casper the Friendly Ghost type situation. It wasn't anything like malevolent. It was just something that was there, and we just kind of were residing with it for a while, and then before we left it was gone, and then when we left we just haven't had anything like that since.
Wow. So like you said it was just a house, but it was after the call of hearing that your cousin passed away. Do you feel like it may have been your family member joining you in the afterlife?
So we kind of had leaned toward that as an explanation for a while. um there there is a kind of feeling that I have that if, like somebody passes and there's unfinished business or they want to say goodbye one last time or something, that maybe they will come and, make their presence known. So we kind of just leaned on that it was her, that is my wife's cousin. We kind of just leaned on it that it was him, kind of, letting us know that he was still there with us and, that, he was saying goodbye one last time kind of a thing. That's what we kind of got out of it. But like I said, there was other things like the dream my wife had, and just kind of other little things that it it put some doubt into whether that was the case or not. But that's kind of what we had settled on being the case after after it all had happened, because there was just no other things that made sense at the time.
Yeah, kind of like just trying to piece all the weird stuff together. I would go straight to that kind of feeling too, especially if it wasn't like malevolent. You were saying.
Yeah, yeah, there was like no malevolence to it. You hear like poltergeist or something, like banging on doors, rattling stuff, throwing things. It wasn't anything like that. It was just you could feel in the air that there was that you like at night when you would go and lay down, it felt like there was somebody standing in the doorway watching you. Like that feeling you get when you can tell somebody's like looking at you, but you don't see it, you just feel it. You would get that feeling, and it was like a charge in the air kind of a feeling, like you're not alone. You would have that feeling, and I had never felt that anywhere else.
Would you get that feeling when the lights were flickering?
So no, so that mostly happened to my wife. So my wife was smoking at the time, and we didn't want to smoke in the house, so she would smoke in the attached garage, or outside. But if she go into the attached garage to have a cigarette, the lights would flicker, and she would think it would be me messing with her, like turning on and off the lights, so she'd yell and say, hey, stop doing that. But it wasn't me, because I wasn't doing it. So but then when she would say something, it would stop, but it was almost as if like it was like a playful thing, like somebody was messing with her or something. But it would happen to her mostly, and it happened to me like once or twice, and I saw it happen to her, but it happened to her mostly.
Wow. Did you ever share this with any other family members or friends, or has it always just been
Oh
like
yeah.
between you and the
Oh,
wife?
Oh yeah, no, no. We told a lot of people, family reunions and other stuff. We brought it up. It's one of those things where you can't explain it. Something that happens that's out of the realm of the normal, and it's kind of like a hey, you want to hear about the time that we lived with a ghost, kind of a story.
That's a good party story there after you're all done experiencing it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, especially because there was no like negative outcomes from it or anything bad. It was just kind of an interesting thing that kind of let you know that there is something going on beyond what we see, kind of a thing.
Yeah, and now that you've lived through it, like, do you ever miss like the strange excitement going around, or are you glad it's behind you?
So, I mean, we've got more kids now. We have four kids at home, and I think a ghost would just be a little too much to add to the party. So, I think I'm glad that it's behind us, but I am glad for having the experience because it helped. I think it helped me grow in my understanding of the world and look at things differently. To know that it's kind of like the proof is in the pudding kind of a thing, when you can believe in stuff, but until you see it or experience it for yourself, you don't really ever truly believe in it. You just really strongly think that that's real. But then when you experience, you're like, oh, okay, no, without a shadow of a doubt, this is absolutely real.
Yeah, especially like calling it out, and you're saying like you said, make yourself known, and it dumps. Like, can you take us back to that moment a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I, we were standing in the kitchen. It was late at night, and we were both kind of like bringing up to each other all the stuff that had been going on and how creepy it was. And then, I just jokingly was like, if there's anything in this house, if there's anything in this house, make a noise. And then right above our heads, there was like two thumps, like somebody just stomped their foot two times. And we're like, just looked at each other with our mouths open. And like, I got goosebumps. I got goosebumps right now just thinking about it. Like, it was just one of those moments that was like surreal, because it's like that's the confirmation, because all the little weird stuff you can explain away. Lights flickering, oh, that's just the wiring. Footsteps running. Oh, that's just the kids, but they're in bed. They probably ran and got back in bed really fast. You can kind of explain all that stuff away in your head to make yourself feel better. But when you get like that irrefutable proof where you say, do something right now, and you hear two thumps right above your head, that's very clearly not like an animal or anything. Because there was no way to get into our upper attic. There's like a pull down access ladder thing or a hatch somewhere, but we have no vents, so there's no animals getting in there. There's nothing that could get up there, and there's nothing that would make that loud of a noise in succession of each other. One, two. It's almost like if somebody comes to knock at your door, you're gonna know a knock versus something brushing up against the door and hitting the door because you're not gonna have a follow up to that. But that was boom, boom, very loud and clear right above our heads. So I mean that's what kind of solidified it and made me go, okay, yep, this is either that's the biggest coincidence in the universe or this is exactly what I thought it was.
Especially both of you there here in the Big Falls. Like that must have been quite a crazy experience. Now
Yeah.
that your kids are a little bit older, do they ever talk about that experience?
So the only one that's old enough to even slightly remember that is my daughter, who is 14 now. She was like 7 at the time, but I mean, she doesn't really remember. I mean, at the time, we weren't, going around telling our 7-year-old, "Hey, we got a ghost in the house." It was kind of we were keeping it to ourselves, kind of a thing. So I don't think she ever really picked up on anything. So I mean, we didn't bother to, freak her out. So I mean, if we do talk about it, like now, she will talk about it or something, and she's just like, "Wow," but it's one of those things we didn't really bring up while we were living there. We didn't want to scare her.
Yeah, like there's just no memory, at least with your 7 year old, of these experiences, because it was just the toddler at the time that you found weird occasions.
Yeah, just laughing in his room when he'd wake up. Which I mean, it wasn't even super weird. It was out of the normal for that because he was just he wanted as soon as he woke up, he wanted either mom or dad. So he'd start crying, but those days kind of in that weird period, it's like he'd wake up kind of giggling and laughing like he was playing with somebody, and that wasn't normal for him at the time, being 6 months old. It was out of the ordinary.
Yeah, and being 6 months, they're usually still in the crib. Is that the kind of style you had for your toddler?
Yeah, yeah, he was still in the crib in his bedroom right next to our bedroom, still in the crib at that time. We were trying to get him to go down. He was just at that stage where he was able to kind of be in the crib by himself, and he was starting to sleep through the night. So we were getting him in there doing that, getting through the routines, and then yeah, that stuff started happening. And then some days he'd still wake up crying, but some days he'd wake up and he'd just be like giggling and laughing in his room, and we just thought it was so odd. I mean, we enjoyed it because we're like, hey, we get to sleep in a little bit longer, and Casper's entertaining him, but it wasn't normal for us at the time. And I forgot. Actually, sometimes too, there would be toys in his room that would go off on their own, like little electric toys or whatever that would make noise or play. Sometimes they just go off on their own in his room, and we hear it, and we go, "Oh, that's weird." But I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, you never know with those toys, right? And a lot of times it's like there's no way the battery's dying and it's glitching out. It's like, how does this happen?
Yeah, yeah. No, we had toys that I know for a fact we had just put batteries in because he wanted to play with them. And then, you put the batteries in, and then that like night or the next day or morning or night, you would hear him just going off by himself. So it's like, yeah, they're not dying in that, but you still get some of those times when stuff like that would happen. But I think that kind of
Ugh.
has to go to deal with like I said, like it felt like there's like a charge in the air. You're not alone, but it feels like really charged in the atmosphere. I don't know if it's like whatever was there was just giving energy to that thing and it was just overloading it or something, but we'd get that a few times as well.
Wow. When you go through it, like it really changes like the way you think of things. Do you find like your beliefs about life or death is different now?
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. I had already believed in an afterlife, so I mean I already kind of had an inkling, and I'm not super religious, but I do Um, I do ascribe to that there's a higher power, and then there's a law. There's a law to the universe that everything follows. So I think that in that my beliefs were more like sounded or more grounded, I should say, and that I think now even more so than back then. I think now I'm really more solidified in that after going through that. Um, but I also think that it helped me realize that if you've got things on this planet that you want to do or things that you want to say, to do those things and say those things as much or as possible as soon as you possibly can, because I feel like if it was the spirit of my wife's cousin, he was saying goodbye and trying to communicate and hang on a little bit longer because we lived so far apart, and they grew up together. They were really close when they were younger, and they kind of not drifted apart but just weren't as close. So I think that if you've got people that you care about, tell them you love them while they're here and while you're here. If you've got things you want to do, don't wait, do it. Because you don't have forever, and eventually, when your time does run out, I think that you want to be in a good like mind space where you can move on to what comes next versus still being attached to what's happening here because you feel like you didn't do or say everything you needed to. So I think that's really my big takeaway.
Yeah, especially how spooky it is for the living to kind of go through that. Like you didn't feel any malevolence, but like having the lights flicker and things bang, that can be quite a experience.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, like I said, unsettling is the word for it, because it wasn't really scary. We never felt like fear or like afraid for our lives or anything, or afraid that anything was going to happen. It's just unsettling because it's something that you don't expect to happen, nor would anything, logical dictate that it would happen. So it'd be like if you dropped a pen, but instead of falling to the ground, it floated up in the air. You wouldn't expect that to happen, so that would freak you out when it happened. You don't expect that, a ghost or anything is going to start, haunting your home. So when something like that gives you evidence towards that, you're freaked out by that because you're like, what? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's all just questions until you get that like validation of the thumping you got there.
Yep.
I do have a question. With what you wrote, you said your wife's dreams had a woman in the hallway.
Yeah.
Was the cousin a female, or was that just like
No, no. So
no?
that's the other thing that was wild about this is that my wife's cousin was not a female. He was, I believe, like 24 or 25 at the time when he was killed. And so he was a young man. And that's the other part that was weird about this whole thing, is that we kind of got this feeling that it was him because of the timing, because of what was happening. But her dreams, which was the weirdest, like not the weirdest part, but her dreams, which was really strange, was of this woman. And the woman was like, she was very like silhouetted, so you couldn't see her really great, but she had like this weird, like this dark, flowy dress on, and she would walk through the hallway really slow, and the kids were like following her, and that's why like she was kind of like weirded out, so she like got up to like see like what was going on, like who it was. And that's when she had that like freaky dream moment where the lady in the dream like got all up in her face and like freaked her out, kind of a thing. And that's when she woke up. But that was like, the dream felt so much different from the other activity that were happening, other than it was just all a little unsettling. But the dream was more like scary, versus my experiences weren't as scary. They were just, unsettling, and just you didn't know what was going to happen. It was just weird.
Yeah, I can think of moments in my house where like you hear the creaks and the stuff like that, but when you don't see it, like it's kind of a different perspective than what you're dealing with.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, wow. But I'm so grateful that you could walk us through everything that's been happening. Is there anything you would kind of like to share with us? Anything you remember?
I mean, I think that's really it. Honestly, it was an experience. I'm glad that we went through it. It gave me some confirmations, and I think hope anybody who hears this kind of hears it and takes take stock over your life and what's important to you, and make sure that that's the things that you spend your time and your life on. That's what matters, is the things that matter to you, and leaving the world a better place than you found it, and making it a better place for other people and their children growing up in it. And that's really all I got to say about it.
Welcome to the end of the episode, and I'm so glad you made it here. That was an awesome story we got. Once again, thank you so much, guest, for hopping on and sharing that uh, experience you've had. It's awesome. Like, when does the line cross from normal to this is outright paranormal? Let me know in chat what your experience is when it went from all right to nope. This is the line. We are going to have more stories coming. I'm editing one as we speak here to come out 2 Thursdays from this episode being pumped out, or one more Thursday, whatever. You'll see it. I've got more episodes coming. I'm working hard to keep it going. I'm talking a little bit more because this one was a little bit shorter, and I kind of want to, yeah, just say hi to everybody. I'm Rob, and uh, this is my channel. Thanks for joining.